Hey, my voice sounds really weak. What's up? It's the Culture Detective here investigating your favorite albums. And today I am finally finishing my classic album review. Yes! Hua, 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 hua. Chop, 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 chop. I don't know why I did all that. I really don't. But finally have finished my classic review series where from the beginning of January all the way until I guess mid right now, even late February, my classic album review series where I review 7 albums that I consider classics. And for the most part in this series, I have covered very sad music that's very dramatic, very sad. The artist is depressed, and just very sad music. So I decided to end off the series with something more uplifting, something more fun, and that is, of course, Yellow Magic Orchestra with Solid State Survivor. So, Japanese electro pop trio Yellow Magic Orchestra, comprising Hosono Haruo, Takahashi Yukihiro, and the legendary composer, multi-instrumentalist Sakamoto Ryuichi, rest in peace to all of them, plus sound mixer and sound engineer Yoshizawa Norio, come together to form Yellow Magic Orchestra, the fourth one being featured in this album, but not technically part of the trio. Now, this album was released in 1979, and at the time, we are entering the heights of electro pop, psych rock, and musical experimentation, and it is a pretty exciting time to live in as a musician. However, at this point in time, the UK and the USA are still trying to figure out disco music and dance music, but Japan was like, nuh-uh, guys. Nuh-uh. Because they have already figured it out with this album. This album is honestly really ahead of its time and served as major influences for big electronic musical acts, all the way from Daft Punk to video game soundtracks that Nintendo and other games are using right now. Yellow Magic Orchestra is way more influential than they seem to be. And what I also really love about this album and the band's music in general is that they tend to mix in some elements of Japanese traditional music in very subtle ways, whether it be the strange chord progressions or the stiff, polite style of the way the notes and the beats and the instrumentals are arranged. And it's very stiff and polite, yet to me it sounds very charming because it sounds like a robot trying to dance like a human being. There's a charming point of that style that I really like. Now, we have 8 tracks on the album, but honestly, I think it's 8 for 8. I think 7 out of the 8 tracks here are amazing, and I really enjoy listening to the album. And the more I listen to it, the more I love it, and it's slowly growing to be one of my favorite electronic albums I've ever heard. The album opener Technopolis or Technopolis is a really cool album opener with swooshy, buzzy textures, funky keyboards, shimmery tones. It's like we have just entered a sci-fi world. It's very catchy and charismatic, and then we are introduced the dramatic synths and the nimble beats and the horn-like synths that goes bum 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 bum, and it sounds like the central building of whatever this sci-fi dystopian city is, or maybe utopian, who knows, is trying to make an announcement to tell all the citizens of this city to gather around for a big announcement or something. And then we have these vocoder vocals, just Tokyo, and it's so fun. There's just so much to chew on musically, audibly, a lot of musical textures to process, and it is a very stimulating song, in my opinion. Following that, we have Absolute Ego Dance, which is honestly a straight banger. We have these flip-floppy, froggy tones, and then these peppy metallic drums. The chorus, or I guess the middle part of the track, turn into these hard beats and these eccentric background vocals sort of like enter the track, and it's so funny, it's so wild, it's awesome. And then we have the third track, Rydeen, which is the most iconic track on the album, and rightfully so. This track has a killer synth lead. Bum 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 bum. It's really catchy, and then the chord changes of this track is amazing, and they would go on to characterize J-pop for many years and many decades, and even now for J-pop and many other adjacent genres. It's just very sci-fi. There's something about this track that makes it very sci-fi, very futuristic, and it's awesome. Following that, we have Castalia, which is a more subtle, toned down track, and even though it's probably the weakest track on the entire album, in my opinion, I still feel like this is a soundtrack straight from a 1980s dark fantasy film. Following that, Behind the Mask is a dreamy, psychedelic, bright electro-pop track. It's so weird and out there with the vocoder bits in the middle. It almost sounds like a track off of Gorillaz' Plastic Beach, but somehow this is made in 1979. And then we have Day Tripper, which is a surprising, weird, random left turn, because this is actually a cover song of the Beatles' song of the same name, Day Tripper, and it's really funky and playful and glitchy and kooky and stiff. Again, it's just so much freaking fun. Insomnia is a very low-key track, but also very dreamy and strange and surreal. We have these mid-paced, clangy, metallic sounds and buzzy keyboards. It sounds like a soundtrack to a strange video game about breaking into dreams and entering nightmares and stuff like that. And then finally, the album ends off with the title track, which I think is a fantastic ending to the album, with glossy synths, chunky guitars, nostalgic chord progressions, which, if you know me, you know I'm definitely not immune to. Like, every time I hear nostalgic chords, I love it. But there's just a lot of distorted noise in the album, and it's very frustrating and puzzle-like. For some reason, it really reminds me of like MGMT's Congratulations for how weird and quirky it is, but also it's a very interesting way to end off the album. So yeah, overall this album is freaking awesome. I pretty much enjoyed every single track here. Sure, there are some weak moments that I wish could be less weak, but overall, as an electronic album from 1979, this album is banger after banger, and I really enjoyed this one. I have to admit, I'm feeling a light to decent to strong 9 out of 10. Yeah, so have you listened to the new, not the new, but the legendary Yellow Magic Orchestra album, Solid State Survivor? Comments below, let me know, subscribe if you want more, and thanks for watching. Yes, I will not do any reviews for the next few days because my voice needs to rest. I don't know what's wrong with my voice, but, you know, I need to stop talking for like a week, okay?